The other thing that affects coffee flavor is the roast. There's a lot of different ways you can roast it in order to bring out different types of flavors, and you can taste a lot more like the fruity flavors and stuff like that.
Yes, cheers, of course.
Have you ever been on a website for a very specific reason? Then you click on a hyperlink, and then another. Ooh, look, suggested videos. Next thing you know, you spent hours researching a super obscure topic. Your mind has transcended planes. You're now an expert. So come on the show and tell us about it.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hyperlink. My name is Ronan Jensen. I'm your host, and today we are joined by our usual host and now guest, Dominic Hure, who is going to talk to us today about coffee.
Yes. I'm very excited. I'm going to make some coffee today as well. Yes, usually I am the host of Hyperlink, but, I go down my own little internet rabbit holes every once in a while, and coffee is also one of those things. And so today we are going to be making coffee from Ethiopia, and it's a single origin wash process, and it's going to have notes of bourbon varietals, apricot, jasmine, and peach. And you may be thinking to yourself, what does that all mean? That seems very confusing, and I just want to have Folgers, and that sounds way more delicious. And that is what we will be going over today. And you're going to learn so much. It's so exciting.
I'm ready. I was thinking, what?
So there's a lot of things that go into it, and it can seem kind of confusing, but it's not like super complicated. So that's what we'll go over today. But the main things that go into it are how it's farmed and how it's processed, where it's grown, how it's roasted, and how it's brewed. What we call a coffee bean is actually a coffee cherry, and a coffee bean is actually a coffee seed or a coffee pit of the cherry. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple different ways of getting that pit out of the cherry in order to be able to roast it.
Got it.
And so one of the ways is a wash process where you wash the cherry off with water until you just have the seed there. And so that just tastes purely like the bean, and it tastes exactly like it's just coming straight out of the ground, and you're getting no other flavors. Mm-hmm. The other process is what's called a natural process. And so in a natural process, what they do is they let the cherry sit out in the sun for a while, and it causes the cherry to ferment and ferment, and then within fermentation, give the pit a lot of different fruity flavors and make it taste more funky and a little bit more delicious, in my opinion. The other thing that affects coffee is the origin. What they say when they say a country is not actually the country it's coming from. What's more important is, what they're basically saying is the altitude that it's being grown at.
I see.
So when you exercise and you don't stretch or warm up and warm down, your body builds up a lot of lactic acid, right? And so when you don't stretch, that lactic acid stays there and you become super sore, right? That's basically your body not getting enough oxygen and warming down from the exercise, right?
Sure.
After putting a lot of energy into it. The same thing happens with plants. So if a plant doesn't get enough oxygen, it's going to start building up a bunch of what's kind of similar to lactic acid, and because it has to work a lot harder because it doesn't have as much oxygen. And that lactic acid that it's creating is really delicious and makes it taste completely different. The coffees that are planted up at super high altitudes tend to taste a lot better because there's a lot less oxygen, more lactic acid. The other thing that affects coffee flavor is the roast. There's a lot of different ways you can roast it in order to bring out different types of flavors. So you can roast something either super light or super dark. Roasting just means, like a light roast or a dark roast, that just means how long it's actually left in the roaster and how long it's cooked. And so
light roast is shorter, dark roast is for longer?
Yeah, so if you cook something that's light roast, it's just a lot shorter of a time than dark roast. Darker roasts are pretty much really popular with bigger brands and stuff. With darker roasts, you get a lot more chocolatey. Dark roasts are also a lot more bitter They're on the bitter end of the spectrum.
Okay.
And then light roasts are more sour, more acidic, and you can taste a little bit more of the fruity flavors and stuff like that. Also, kind of a common misconception, what people classify as like stronger or darker coffee, like darker roasted coffee, actually has way less caffeine than lighter roasted coffee because it's not as cooked as long, and the longer you cook beans for, the more the caffeine is actually cooked out of it. So now we're gonna have some coffee here. So this is what's called a pour over, with the pour over coffee method.
Because you poured the coffee over
I
it?
literally poured it over. And so, you got your mug?
I do have a mug.
And so this method makes it really like a little more sweet, like brighter, and you can taste a lot more like the fruity flavors and stuff like that.
Yes, cheers, of course. So this is lighter roast, you said? This would be on the lighter side?
This is a medium light roast, yeah.
Okay.
And so yeah, those are the different types of brewing. There's also espresso, which is basically highly pressurized. That's like the little like espresso shots that you would get. Or, like,
yeah, you always see them in very tiny cups.
So that's super condensed. It actually contains less caffeine than a full cup of coffee. Because it's highly pressurized water just being shot through beans instead of sitting with it like these other two methods. French press, let the grounds and the water sit in this area for a couple minutes, and then you just and squish it out.
With all the different, even though you said it isn't that complex, it's definitely more complex than other types of drinks. I wonder, in terms of coffee tasting, is it at all comparable to wine tasting in terms of the methods?
Yeah, they have similar fandoms, I guess you would say, where you can go and like taste different coffees and stuff. I found this super nerdy thing called the Coffee Flavor Lexicon, which is standardizes all coffee tastes. And so what you do is this large document that gives you every single possible taste that you can find in coffee. And standardizes what that flavor tastes like outside of coffee. And so if it's like, oh, this tastes like strawberry jam, it tells you which strawberry jam to go buy this amount of strawberry jam from this particular brand
to get,
and then put it in this container and like mix it with this other thing and then taste that, and that's the exact flavor that you are supposed to be able to taste in this coffee. And that does that for every single flavor you can possibly find in coffee. So like every other flavor possibly. And it's a weird way of standardizing something that like I think is like super like objective, which is just like flavor.
Is this your favorite type of brand?
I like a few different brands. I like Rose Park, Lord Windsor, Rig City, Blue Bottle, there are a bunch of different brands, but the type of coffee I like a lot is high altitude, like from Ethiopia, more natural processed, medium roast, and you can figure out what you like just by trying different types of coffee and exploring and stuff.
So yeah, all right. So thank you for joining us. You can check out our podcast on all podcast platforms, Hyperlink by 22S Media, and it'll be included in the description below as well. And check out our other videos if you want to hear about stuff like bananas, because I know I do.
Or join an Extinct Banana Party and email us at extinctbananaparty@gmail.com. You can check out another episode if you want to learn more about that.
All right, and thank you very much, and sleep well.